let's get started. So as I said, today we're the perfect marketing plan for your practice. My name is Cheryl Pederzoli, and I am a marketing manager here at ProSites. We're going to cover how do you stand out for marketing and why you need it, an overview of the steps, and then we'll actually apply the steps so you can see how you go through this on your own. And then, like I said, we'll have time for the questions and answers. So, what's the difference between your practice and a practice in your area? I want you to just take a minute and think about it. Do you offer the same procedures? Do you have better customer service? Maybe better hours? Or is there no real difference? Do you have an idea in your head? Now, if I ask anybody in your community, patient, not a patient, what would they say? Does it match what you're thinking? I know this question changes if you're in different areas, what your competition looks like. But one of the most important things about marketing is it allows you to tell people what makes you different, what makes you better than the next person. Maybe it's that you accept more insurances than anybody else in the area, or you're available on the weekend. But this is one of the key reasons that you need to market. It allows you to make yourself stand out. And it's even a bigger issue than that, because people's perceptions is their reality. And how people perceive things, it doesn't have to make any logical sense. For example, maybe there's a single supermodel on your website, and somebody going to the practice says, oh, they just serve people who, want to get that cosmetic dentistry. They're very expensive. Maybe they're not good for families. That's probably not at all the case, but people's perceptions don't make sense. Another example might be if your practice is located in a strip mall. People might think you're cheap, you don't offer cosmetic dentistry service, you're a drill and fill type of practice. That's their perception. That's another reason why you need marketing. It allows you to change those perceptions. Maybe the reason the practice is in the strip mall is because it's got easy, safe parking. It's a convenient location. It's easy for everybody to get to in town. Marketing is going to help change those perceptions that there's no other way to really get people to think differently about. The other important thing is action requires awareness. If a patient doesn't know that you exist, there's no reason they would ever consider you as a practice. You need to get on the radar. You need to be online so they can find your practice. You need to be found, whether it's people driving up and down the road, if there's a sign, if there's an ad. If they don't know you exist, you're never going to get the new patients. So that's another critical part of why you need a marketing plan. When you have an effective marketing strategy, you can have consistent messages that resonate with your audience. You can build your brand, you can communicate what you do, and establish a loyal following of patients that know and want to be working with you. So let's talk about the 8 steps. Now, first I'm going to walk through all of these kind of at a high level, just so you understand where we're going with it. And then I'm going to go back and walk through them one more time, but show you how you would actually apply it to your practice. And that's where it'll start to all click in your head. So first, you want to conduct a situational analysis. You need to know where you are today, and that's going to help you decide where you need to go. So think about it. Just get a piece of paper one day, write it down in a Word document, whatever's the easiest way for you to start to think about this. So think about what services do you have? Who are your current patients? What do you measure as far as practice performance? For example, filled seats. How do you compare to an industry average? Are you better than? Are you a little worse than? You're right where you need to be. Who are your big competitors? And how are you different? If you try to think about what your goals are, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, that might actually impact how you want to market your practice and what you're looking to do. Think about what you're currently using. Are you using print ads? Do you have a good online presence? And are you able to track your marketing currently? If you put out a campaign, do you know if it works? Do you know if an ad actually brings in new patients? The next step is that you want to understand what your goals are. And you want these to be SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. And this is because when you come up with these goals, You want to know if it's actually working. So you need to have a goal that you can look back 6 months, 3 months from now and say, yes, it worked, or no, it didn't. So a couple of things to think about. Where do you want your practice to be? Do you have any personal goals for your practice? Do you want to attract more patients? If so, be very specific. What type of patients? What's the time frame you're giving yourself to bring these in? Another possible goal, are you preparing your practice to be sold? If so, when do you want to do it? What do you need to accomplish to get yourself there? And then lastly, if you're just trying to gain more profitable patients, what actually makes them profitable? Is it specific services, payment methods, the frequency of visit? Think about what really you're trying to accomplish and then how you can measure that. So the third step to creating your plan is to define your target audience. A couple examples that we threw up here. You can target your current patients. Is it all your patients? Is it a specific demographic? Is it a specific payment type or service need that you want to target with your marketing? Potential patients. Is there any type of patient you want out there? Is there a specific demographic, specific services that you want to promote? That's going to change what you choose for how to reach those patients. Or maybe you're targeting unknown patients. And in this case, an unknown patient means one, you don't know that they're looking, so you don't know how to target them specifically yet. Whereas if you're targeting a potential patient, maybe you know, yep, there are people in this house, so I can send a message directly to them. There's lots of different ways to reach the patient, online, phone calls, social media. Depending on what your target is, that's going to help you decide how you want to reach them. For example, a current patient, you have phone numbers for. Maybe you can send a text message saying, hey, we're booking out for teeth whitening services in June under our special promotion. And you can bring people in that way. So depending on how you're trying to reach people, there's different avenues, but you do need an avenue in order to reach people in order to actually make a marketing plan. So your next step is going to be developing what your budget looks like. And this is both time and money. So most people think budget and think money focused. Well, a lot of the activities we can do might not require a lot of money, but they might require time. For example, if you want to reach out to current patients using phone calls, you might need staff time to do that. Or if you want to send out messages to people via email, you need time, but it's not very expensive. So think about what you've got available and then what you need in order to meet your goals for your practice. And we'll talk a little bit more about this so you understand how this all plays in. So once you've got a good idea of what your goals are, what your target market is, what you have available for time and money, that's when we start to think about what are the strategies that you're going to want to use. So you see here, there's this little graphic, and this shows the typical strategies that we see. The colors is basically the return on investment. So green are things that have a higher return on investment. Yellow, generally it's kind of medium. Red, it's a little bit harder to get a good return. And these are very subjective. So everybody's experiences might be different. We just kind of did this on average based on what we see when we're working with all the dentists who are doing marketing with us. So the things that we recommend you consider, word of mouth. Most of you already use word of mouth marketing as one of your top avenues for getting in new patients. Having a strong practice website. So having a website that's that core piece of information for people to go to. It's where they're going to go and get your phone number, find out your address, learn about you, build trust in your practice. If some new patient's coming, they want to know what it is that you can do for them. Can you take their insurance? The website is really the core of all your marketing because a lot of different things point to it. We do recommend you make sure your organic search listings, your SEO, is working. So this is going to be that process of optimizing to make sure you show up when people search. In some cases, this talks about making sure that you're part of the business listing. So if Google comes and you search on your practice name, a map shows up and you're on the map. So there's a lot that contributes to it. Another top category is online directories and review sites. Right now, a lot of people are using these just to build trust and say, oh yeah, that's the dentist I should go to. Lots of people said great things about them. So this is a great resource. It also shows up on first page listings for many, many people when they search on either your practice name or a dentist in your area. And then social media is another important avenue. Lots and lots of people are spending time on social media. And when they are, if you have a presence on social media, it encourages a lot of different parts of your marketing. It allows people to share information about you. So if somebody says, hey, I'm looking for a dentist in the area, got any suggestions for me? Well, they'll be able to actually tag your page and they'll share you that way. All of a sudden, your reach is just increased by doing that. The other important thing with social media is it helps you build patient loyalty. You can communicate with your patients and you can have a relationship with them even when they're not in the office with you. And many times you only see your patients every 6 months or so. So it's important to build those relationships. So if for some reason they miss an appointment, they see that you're showing up, a post about the importance of dental care, all of a sudden it'll trigger, oh yeah, I need to call and make an appointment. So it's an important avenue. When you start to think about what strategies you want to use, think about all of the W's. So the who, what, where, when, why. If you're going to be using email marketing, how often do you want to send out these emails? Who are you going to send them to? What's the content going to be? What are you hoping to accomplish with these emails? You don't just send them without thinking about why. So we'll go through and I'll talk to you a little bit more later about how you can select some and what that's actually going to help you with. But this is an important piece. You also want to consider, if you're looking at those different tactics, you can use multiple channels for a similar message. So a huge example or a great example I give people is if you've got a special offer. Maybe it's June, you've got graduations and you've got weddings and you want to promote teeth whitening in your office. If you put a newspaper ad out, make sure you include your URL to drive people to your website. If you use Google AdWords pay-per-click ads, mention the special offer in it. It's going to encourage more people to click the ad and visit your website. Make sure on your website you actually have that offer showing. And if there's enough details, create a special page for it that people can click and get a lot more information. Put a sign in your office, email your patients, share it on social media. You kind of see how all of these different activities feed into each other and make your message stand out and resonate with people because they see it in multiple places. So the next step is that you actually have to create the content. If you've got advertisements, direct mailers, your website, everything requires content. So a couple of tips for creating that content. Ask patients what they like about your practice and then use that to feed your marketing content. For example, maybe somebody says, I really love this doctor. He always pays attention. He takes the time to listen and address all of my concerns. Well, that's great knowledge, and that's a message that you want to share. A couple different ways. You can use it as a headline in an ad. Cares about your concerns. That's a headline. You could use the testimonial exactly and ask if you can use that as a paragraph within your ad. So that's another way to do it. Putting testimonials on your website is a great way to encourage people to really trust that your doctor is the one that they want to see. You can also just use little call outs in different places. So if somebody says, it's a great location, I love coming here, it's easy to park and get in. Well, that's a bullet that you could have in an advertisement or something that you can call out. You can also, when you hear what people say about the practice, you can ask them to go and post it on an online forum, Yelp, Facebook reviews. There's lots of different things. So one of the key, I don't want to say it's a trick, but one of the ways to figure out what content's going to resonate with people is to just ask your patients what they think, why they like you, and then use that to feed what that content is. So the next step is executing. This is that process of starting your campaign, clicking send on the email. You've made a plan, you've built your content, you've got your goals, you get it out. So step 7 goes pretty quick. Step 8, this is one of the harder ones. You want to make sure you measure the success of what you've done. You need to know if it's working or if it's not. And this is one of those things that most people forget about, or they don't do it very effectively. So a couple things that you can do to help out with your tracking. You can use a phone number that's going to allow you to see how many phone calls you got. You can track the number of new patients. I mean, it can be as simple as the receptionist who's answering the call. Every time she goes to try to start somebody to be a new patient, that process, they just ask, how'd you hear about us? You know, she could keep track on an Excel file. She can feed that information into your practice management system so you can go back and look. So you want to make sure you understand what the most important criteria is and then track for it. So I went over the 8 steps pretty quickly. Now let me put it into context so you can actually see how you would do this for your own practice. So, situational analysis. I've been in practice for 7 years. I'm one of 8 practices in town, so pretty good amount of competition. I've got a great location though. This is great because there's lots of people driving by. I offer general dentistry. I've got a good mix of patient demographics. My current situation though is I am seeing a decline in my patients due to a new mall dental practice. Right now my schedule is about 85% full, so I've definitely got room to improve. And patients are finding me mostly through word of mouth. I haven't touched my website in a while. I don't even think it's mobile friendly. Every once in a while I run an ad in the paper. So you can see this is probably more of an extreme, but there's a lot of room to improve in this situation. So I've really got 2 goals. I need to reduce my patient attrition from 18% to 10% per year. I've got too much. I'm losing patients to this mall practice. I also want to grow my patient base by 20% per year. So I need to keep myself going. So when you look at these goals, you can see they're very specific. They're measurable. There's a time frame on it. I know I can actually take some goals to accomplish this. So, step 3, define my target audience. So my first goal was to reduce attrition. My current patients are at risk of leaving due to financial concerns, convenience factor, and dissatisfaction. So how do I identify this target list? Well, I've got the information in my system. I can go back and I can see who is a patient and then who hasn't been around in a while. Who do I need to go and reach out to? So I've got the information to target these guys. My second goal is I need to grow my patient base. So what I want to do is target prospective patients who are either seeing other dentists or just have moved into town. I want to make sure I'm found by these patients online because that's one way to reach them. I've got a great location, I said, so I want to have some new office signage. And I want to identify new patients who are just moving into town with home sales information. You know, one of the important things in this goal that you want to kind of understand too is that my first goal is actually reducing attrition. And that's because it is much more expensive to bring new patients in than it is to have patients stay with me. So that's why I really wanted to have 2 parts to my goal because I want to make sure I keep the patients because it's much, much cheaper. So my budget. Dollar-wise, I'm currently spending $450 a month. We actually did a survey and we found that on average, dentists spend about $500 a month in their marketing. And this is a broad range. It goes anywhere from, 0 to thousands of dollars a month on marketing. And for everybody, it depends what situation is. Maybe they're in an area where there's not a lot of competition. Don't have to spend much. Maybe you've got a huge base and lots of people who are sharing because you're community involved. So people's budgets change a lot. But I know in my situation, I really need to get people in the door. So I'm increasing my budget to $1,000 per month. As far as time, I've got an office receptionist who can work about 3 hours a week, but it's broken up between visits and calls, but about 3 hours. And then I have an office manager who has a little bit of time here and there to help me out also. So that's my budget, my dollar and my time budget. So now I got to think about what those strategies are I want to use. So My first goal, reduce attrition by focusing on customer loyalty and satisfaction. So there's two different things I want to do here. I want to start to send a monthly newsletter. And in some cases, I'm going to include a coupon for service. I'm not going to do it every time, but here and there to help bring people in. And my goal of having that newsletter is to connect with patients, make sure I'm still top of mind, even though I don't see them more than twice a year, potentially more often, depending on who the patient is, but try to build a relationship with them. The other thing I want to do is really understand, why am I losing them to this small practice? Is it because of the hours? The other practice is available evenings and weekends? Is it because they're offering better deal than I am as far as pricing and they're getting a lot more self-pay patients? Or is it something I don't even know? So I want to do a survey. I want to invite those patients to take the survey using postcards, office signage, an email that goes out after somebody's had an appointment, and then links in my newsletter. Now, one of the interesting things you'll see when you're looking at this list is that all of these are relatively low cost but high time required activities. I need somebody to do it for me, but they're not very expensive. That's part of why it's a lot cheaper to keep a current patient than it is to bring a new one in, because the types of activities you're going to do are very different. So let's talk about focusing on new customers and how do I bring people in. So I want to update the signage on the road to stand out. It was interesting. I had been reading a forum on Dental Town, and somebody had said they changed their sign out front to put a tooth on it before it had just had the doctor's name on it. And just by doing that, they got a pile of new patients. And a lot of them said, I didn't even know you were a dentist. And if you think about it, people drive up and down the same road every single day, and they become blind to all those things around. So sometimes it's something as simple as updating a sign, just making it stand out a little bit, or just make it look different, is going to get you noticed and get you a little bit more business. The other thing is, I know I need to update my website. I need to optimize it for search engines. I need to make sure that if somebody's looking online for a dentist, I am going to pop up as one of the top things they see. I think I can also send welcome letters to new homeowners. Kind of be that first person to greet them and say, hey, welcome to the area. I'm here for all your dental needs. We've got lots of spots. Give me a call when you're ready. I also know that I'm struggling to get patients in the door. So I want to update and pay Google using the AdWords program to have an ad that shows. So even if my website hasn't got caught by all the search engine optimization and I'm not showing up in the natural listings, I want to make sure people still see me. So that's why I'm going to pay to have some ads. So these are the tactics I've chosen based on what my goals are, what my time and my dollar budget is. And these are going to help address those goals that I have. So now I got to create my content. This is one of the toughest things. But knowing what I have available here, I'm going to look at the newsletters and the emails. I'm going to ask my receptionist and my office manager to develop it. They know my patients. They know the practice. They're able to come up with a good communication. For a survey, I'm going to do a little bit of work on myself. I'm going to go out and search patient satisfaction surveys, find some examples. I'm going to use an online service to conduct it. Relatively low cost still at this point, but I think I can come up with the time in order to do this because this is my practice and I need to. To update my signage, check with the landlord, call the local sign shop, depends what your situation is. For website updates and search engine optimizations, I know that I need a professional. So if I have a website provider, I may call them and say, hey, I'm concerned about this and this and this. I'm not mobile friendly. I need better content. I'm not showing up. If I'm not comfortable with the person I'm using today, I'm going to find somebody who specializes in dental websites and marketing. And the reason I'm going to do that is because they're going to know what's going to be helping me get found. They're going to know those things already. I want to send welcome letters to new homeowners. I'm in an area where my local paper shows all the new home sales, so that makes it easy. I'm just going to have the receptionist, put together a letter and send it out as we see the new listings in the paper. And then finally, I'm going to advertise on Google. I might have somebody internally who can help, maybe somebody who'd work somewhere else and help them. I might choose to outsource it. There are lots of opportunities if you are looking for somebody to help you with Google AdWords. Google AdWords themselves do have reps there who can help you with setting up campaigns. You can also use outside agencies. Honestly, I've heard not great things about the reps, mostly because they're also, compensated on how much you spend. So it's one of those catch-22s. I've also heard, bad things about agencies. I've heard great things about agencies. If you are looking for some outside help, the tip I would recommend is ask somebody in the area. If you've got another dentist or another business owner who's done advertising on AdWords, ask them how they did it. If they've used an agency, if they had recommendations or recommendations of people to stay away from. Ask your friends. Those are the people who you can trust to hopefully give you a really good bit of advice on how to get it done. So, next step, execute. Contact the people, prepare your timeline, get it going. So what am I measuring? In my particular practice, I'm looking at the number of active patients. How full is my appointment schedule? What's my billing look like? I'm going to look at my website metrics, especially if I'm having somebody help me build it. Am I getting more traffic? Where is that traffic coming from? I'm going to look at my position. I told you up front, I haven't touched my website in 7 years, so maybe I'm on page 3. And as I watch, my position moves from page 3 to page 1. That's how I know it's working. And then as people call, I'm going to ask them, how did you hear from me? I'm going to make sure I capture that information so we can go back and look. And when you have that data, here's an example of how you want to look at it. So if I pay for AdWords, so it's Google paid advertising, I know that in a month it's going to cost me about $1,400. I get a little under 200 visitors. 5 of those become patients. And I know this because I use Google Analytics to track. I also have a system that's going to let me see where did that person come from? Did they complete a form? Does that carry through to my practice management? And did they become a patient? So there's lots of different ways to do it. You can have an automated system that helps it. You could be doing it manually. On average, I get about $500 per patient per year. So I'm expecting those 5 patients to deliver me $2,500. On a cost of $1,400, this is a huge ROI. This is a tactic that works. And what you want to do is just look at this compared to all of your tactics and understand, is AdWords working? Is a newspaper ad working? Is an email campaign working? And everything's going to look a little bit different, but you want to compare them month over month and then tactic compared to tactic to understand what's the right tactic to work for you. So I know I went over a lot of information. These are those 8 simple steps that I talked through. We also have an infographic, and I'm going to make sure that we send that out to you. That actually just shows you all of the steps that I talked about with some bullet points to make it a little bit easier if you're looking at it on your own and you're trying to make the plan. You can do it in a Word document. You can do it in Excel. You can use Google Docs. There's no fancy way of doing a marketing plan. I mean, even marketers, we use Word in order to create these marketing plans. So anybody can do it. You can use a piece of paper if it's easier. There's no special tools needed. You just need to do it. And having a plan in front of you is going to make you more successful. So I'm going to open it up to question and answers. If you do have a question, in the GoToWebinar window, you should find a kind of a button or somewhere where you can click on questions. Just be sure you send that in to everybody. I'll stick around and answer as many questions as I can, but I know we did say this was going to be a 30-minute session, so I don't want to be going too long. So, okay, so I've got a question here. I've had a few bad online reviews that I'm not sure how to handle. I suspect it's costing me business. Any suggestions? So the first thing I would say is take a look and make sure that the concerns, if they're legitimate, you've addressed them in your office. So if there's any concerns, maybe you had bad customer service complaints or things like that, just make sure you address it. So it's not a continuing concern that you're going to see more reviews coming through on. You want to respond publicly to online reviews. Go out there and Let them know, we've heard you, I'd like to address it. You can say, give me a call. This is my direct line. You want to make sure people publicly know that you see this and you want to fix it and you want to make it good by them. So respond publicly. The other thing you're going to want to do is just make sure you get more positive reviews, because that's going to help diminish the effect of that negative review or a couple of negative reviews. It's like in grade school. If you've got 3 A's and 1 D, your average is going to be a B. So you want to make sure that you get more positive reviews, and that's going to help it so it doesn't look like your stars or whatever you see on that particular channel. It's not too low. So those are the tricks. Another thing that I would want to just kind of add now that I'm thinking about it is, up in the beginning, I said, how do you differentiate yourself? What makes you different compared to your competitors? If you don't know, a great way to find out is to go to those online review sites. Yelp, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. Don't just look at your own reviews though. Look at your top competitor reviews. Find out what people complain about on them, and maybe that's how you differentiate. If other people say their customer service is awful, then you promote that you've got great customer service. So just another little trick for you. Somebody says, is it okay to ask patients to put a review on Yelp or Facebook? It is okay. What you want to do though is make sure, if you're going to be asking your patients to put reviews up, make sure they're happy first. Don't blanket ask everybody, hey, had a great service, review us on Yelp. Just make sure that before they leave the office, that they're really happy with the results. One of the things that we do tell people is, if you've got after office emails and things like that, you can include that as part of your signature line. One way to kind of subtly do it is to say, hey, check out our reviews on Facebook. Somebody might click that link and see, and then try to add their own review. So that's definitely something you can do, and is okay. One of the other cool things you can do too is, if you see a really great review, you can actually put it up in your office. Put up a little sign that says, hey, thanks for reviewing us, and put it up there. So you actually get that extra benefit of sharing it with other people. Okay, one more question, and then I think I'll close it down, because I know we're getting a little bit late here as far as timing wise. If you only have the time and money for one tactic, what would be the one that you recommend? I would recommend you make sure your website is where it really needs to be. Right now, we're in a situation where having a mobile website is as, if not more important than having a good, strong desktop website. And that's because a lot more people are doing searches on mobile, and Google knows that. So Google is actually using that mobile design to help prioritize the searches. And if somebody is searching on a mobile device and you don't have a website that has a good mobile version, it's not going to show up high in the search results. The way you can test to see if you've got a good mobile version of your site, just open it up on your phone. Take a quick look, make sure the text is not hanging off the page. You don't have images that don't resize properly. A lot of modern websites nowadays are what they call responsive and adaptive, and they'll kind of change. A responsive site will have that similar look and feel, and whether you're looking on a desktop, a tablet, or a mobile phone, it's going to make sure that it gives you the best presentation. So I think that's it. I do see there's a couple other questions. I'll have somebody get back to you, or I'll get back to you separately after the session. And if you do think of any questions later on, like I said, you're going to get a thank you email. Feel free to just reply back to that and send in any questions. I'm happy to help out anybody that I can. And I want to thank you for joining, and I hope everybody has a great day.